you take an exam, right, it's better to be focused, right? If you were to be in an environment that's loud, a lot of distractions, you might do well in the exam, but you're probably going to do better in an environment that has no distractions, right? That is quiet, that's nothing's going on around you, that you can focus. Successful individuals are able to focus. You know, think about Tiger Woods. I always liked Tiger Woods. When I was growing up, I was a big Tiger Woods fan. And something that he was able to do that I admired was his focus. He was able to take a lot of his emotions, energy, and focus it in on his golf game. And we all know how good Tiger Woods is. He's one of the best to ever play the game. And so if we're really focused, it can make a difference in how we live our lives. And so before we get into the text, I've got a couple of illustrations, activities that I think can help us see how important focus can be. So the first activity that I have is going to include all of us. And so what we're going to do, and actually I have to credit my wife on these examples. She does cognitive therapy, and so a lot of these examples she uses in practice to kind of work on focus. And so we're going to be doing some cognitive therapy tonight. So we're going to do the clapping task. And so how this is going to work is names of fruits are going to appear on the screen, such as apple, banana, orange, grape, and you're supposed to clap after each word. So once the word is put on the screen, clap, okay? Except for the word pear, all right? If pear pops up there, don't clap. You got to pay attention, all right? Any fruit, clap, except for pear, okay? So let's do practice here. Okay. All right, very good. So we got the hang of it. All right, so any fruit except for pear. Okay? Everybody ready? Here we go. Ooh, got some. Okay, good job. All right, some of you messed up a little bit, but again, what did that require? Extreme focus, looking at what the word was being put on there and clapping at the correct one. I have another activity. I'm going to need 2 volunteers. It's not hard. Okay, 1, 2. Love it. 2 volunteers. All right, come on up. And Dave, I'll get your help. Okay. So each of you are going to have a deck of cards. You should be in the middle or whatever. Okay. You guys can stand behind the table and make it easier. So your deck of cards, what your task is going to be is you need to separate the 5s out of this deck. Okay? And so the way you're going to want to do it is take the top card, flip it upside down, and then see if the card, make a pile of everything else, and then a pile for 5s. Make sure you discard it. You want to go as fast as you can because you want to beat the other person.
Okay.
Okay? Questions? Okay.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is our pile together or like?
No, separate. So you want, all right,
But like
your
the
5s
discard.
and then everything else. So
Does
2
it matter
piles.
if they're face up or face down?
Face up.
Okay.
All right? So you want to go as fast as you can, but you have to,
Hold it like this.
yep, backwards, and then separate them out. And if you put the 5 down in the pile, you're not going to separate it. So if it ends up in the,
So don't touch the piles.
right. So you want to make sure you get the 5 before you put it down.
Okay.
Questions? Hopefully that was clear enough. Clear enough? Clear enough. Okay. On your mark, get set, go.
Other way.
What?
Other
You gotta
one.
flip it, or
Yeah, you're
what she
cheating,
said.
Ran.
Flip it away.
Oh,
Yeah.
flip, what?
There you go.
Oh, that makes more sense.
You can't do that.
I don't like this game.
She didn't get the 5 out.
No.
I didn't get my 5.
You gotta get a 5 out,
Jeez.
stays in the same pile.
What?
You're good. Keep
I'm
going.
confused.
You gotta have the
Just
5
try
in a
and
different
separate
pile.
That one touched. Do I have to put it back?
No.
No, it's fine.
Alright, I'm
I didn't let it go. Why are you
I'm calling cheating right now.
Go Sierra.
Whoa, that was rude.
Go for you.
Thank you, whoever that was.
Sure.
Ran?
That's the competition, you know, kind of cheering them on. The other ones.
Hey, there's only.
Alright,
You
so.
cannot do that.
Alright, so it's a tie, it's a tie, it's a tie.
Yeah.
2-2. Okay, so, how to go through it, how hard was that?
It was harder in the beginning and then it got better.
Harder in the beginning and then got better.
It's
Good.
just hard.
Just you.
We're gonna do round 2 now.
Different one?
You're gonna do the same thing, but now we're adding something. What color is it? Be red. Okay. So you can do the same thing now, except I'm gonna read off the list of words. And if you hear 2 words back to back, you have to raise your hand.
The same 5.
Same 5. You're separating, you're doing the same exact thing, but now you've got to listen to see if there's 2 words back to back, you have to raise your hand.
Okay.
Okay?
And we stop, or we raise and keep going.
Yeah, you can keep going, but you got to raise your hand if you hear 2 words back to back.
Okay.
Okay? Questions? No?
We raise our hand the whole time.
No, you raise it and you can put it down.
Okay.
You just have to acknowledge, yeah, just raise it and put it down.
I was confused.
All right. On your mark,
Wait, what are the words?
I'm going to read them.
Wait, so you're gonna like
Okay.
keep
No,
reading
if
words?
you, any word, any 2
Just
words
do
back to
back to
back.
back.
It's like he was bringing up all the fruit and
Yeah, yeah.
brought up pear back to back.
Yeah, so if I read 2 words back to back, doesn't matter what the words are, raise your hand.
Got it.
Got it? Okay. Your mark, get set, go. Paint, wool, wool, ash, boat, bird, risk, horse, thumb, grade, grade,
Aw.
tail, plane, blue,
Bree's focusing on cards.
blind, blind, toil, hat, tar, pump, try, edge, speck, sore, sore, vein, walk, pin, pin,
Raise your
cord,
hand.
crown,
He said 2 words back to back. You raise your
Heat.
hand. I'm done.
Well,
Done.
I'm done, but I
I know,
have
y'all
all
had the
mine.
5s out already and
Yeah,
y'all
I
just kept flipping cards.
There.
You already
Okay.
had the 4 5s out, there's no more 5s.
So 4 5s, 5 5, okay. Looks like Sierra, you're the winner. Congratulations.
Why is she the winner?
Well, she did raise her hand twice during the.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate it. So, which time was easier?
The first time.
First time.
Well, I did better the second time.
You better the second time. You had more practice, but if you had to do it over again, which round would you choose to do?
The first
The
one.
first one. It's easier, right? Why was it easier?
Because you were all focused.
You're all focused on doing one thing versus diverting your focus to 2 things. Okay? And so we're going to come back to this example later on, but 2 examples of how focus can be important. Okay? And so we're going to talk about that tonight, how focus in our Christian lives are important to be effective Christians. And so, let's go ahead and open our Bibles to Matthew chapter 6. And we're going to really kind of camp out here tonight in Matthew chapter 6. Verses 19 through 24. And if I could get a volunteer to go ahead and read that. Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 24.
I can read it.
Go ahead.
Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light is in you and if then the light in you is darkness, how great is that darkness?
And then 24,
Oh,
if you don't mind. No,
I
you're good.
read what I had underlined. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will cling to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money.
Okay, so here Jesus on the Sermon on the Mount is talking about laying up treasures. All right, are we laying up treasures on earth or in heaven? You know, where is our eye? The eye is the lamp of our body. Talking about serving two masters. And so we're going to look tonight at these examples. A lot of times, it's easy to focus on the here and now. Right? It's easy to focus on earthly treasures. As Donnie mentioned, I teach economics at Santa Fe College. I also taught personal finance, and personal finance is becoming more of a passion of mine, especially in education. And something that we talk about in personal finance is, managing money well. So it's a big focus. Mark talked about on Sunday about the qualifications of an elder, and one of those qualifications is managing your household. And part of that is managing budgets, money, being, fiscally sound in the decision making. So a lot of what we talk about in personal finance plays a role in how we as Christians should operate and live. And it's really easy to focus in on the day-to-day, how do we manage money? How do we deal with our possessions that we have? And a lot of times we lose focus of what's really important. We lose focus of eternity, right? What treasures are we laying up in heaven? We get focused on what we're laying up here presently on earth, but I feel like we lose sight of what we're putting up in heaven and what treasures we're laying up in heaven. And so what we're going to focus on tonight, with lesson focus, is we're going to focus on three different things. The focus for our heart, focus for our eye, and the focus for our living. And so first we're going to look at the focus for our heart. What should our heart be focused on in our Christian lives? And I know we just read this, but I want to read it again. Matthew 6:19-21. Don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves don't break in and steal. For your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So you think about who Jesus is talking to here on the Sermon on the Mount. Individuals in the first century, you think about their belongings, it's all tangible. It was things that they could touch. They could see everything that they own. That's not necessarily us today. A lot of our valuables are tangible, but we have a lot of virtual, if you will, valuables as well. You think about the money in your bank account. Right? You don't necessarily touch that. You don't have that on hand. But the principle still applies here. Our valuables will depreciate. Right? Our values are going to get old. They're going to be destroyed. You think about the money you have in your bank account, or just money in general. Right? How easy it is for money to be destroyed. Right? Maybe your dog gets a hold of it. Maybe you lose it. Whatever. It can be destroyed. You can see this old car up here. At one point, that was a brand new car. You could go out and buy a brand new car today, and at some point, that brand new car is going to be an old car. It's going to age. It's going to weather. It's going to be destroyed at some point in time. All right? Time does that to earthly treasures. And so Jesus uses this as an example to delineate the difference between worldly treasures and heavenly treasures. Right? Those heavenly treasures aren't going to be destroyed. They're not going to go away. Right? Moth's not going to tear it up. It's not going to rust. Okay? He also talks about here how our possessions can disappear quickly. You think about Hurricane Ian back in the fall. Individuals who lived in Southwest Florida. Many of you may know friends that were affected in Southwest Florida. Before the storm, these individuals had everything, right? They had their homes, their families, their vehicles, their possessions, and in a matter of hours, days, they lost everything. Right? They went back, they found that their house was completely gone. All their possessions were gone. And it's a reminder that our possessions on this earth can disappear, just like that. And we have no control over that. I think about the money in your bank account. It could disappear overnight. You could wake up in the morning and it may not be there. Again, our valuables can disappear, but God tells us, Jesus tells us here, that our valuables in heaven, our spiritual blessings, aren't going to disappear. Right? They're going to be there. There's no thief that can take that away from us. Right? Our worldly treasures are fragile. They're temporary. I mean, a lot of times we focus on those temporary treasures, our valuables that we have. So you think about those heavenly treasures, all right, more satisfying than you think about a cold glass of lemonade on a summer day. Right? You think how satisfying that is. You know, these heavenly treasures are more satisfying than that, more valuable than treasure that you might find. You think about, treasure, the picture of this treasure chest. You think about treasure found in the Caribbean. You know how exciting that could be, how valuable that could be. But these heavenly treasures are much more valuable than that. Our heavenly treasures are much more secure, right, than our earthly treasures. Think about the gold locked in Fort Knox, one of the most secure areas in the United States. Well, our heavenly treasures are much more secure than that. Okay, so again, we're talking a whole other level. But surprising, our focus a lot of times is still on what's temporary. It's on today. It's on the here and now. Not necessarily eternity. Not necessarily our heavenly riches that we may have stored up. You think about, investing. I like to think of this scripture here as Jesus talking about investing in your spiritual home, in your heavenly home, in your spiritual gifts. You think about investing today. If you put money in a stock or ETF, is it guaranteed to grow? No, it's not guaranteed to grow. Right? There's risk involved. Right? You can, manipulate. You can put together portfolios to try to mitigate and reduce as much risk as possible. There's still risk involved. Well, the good thing about our heavenly treasures, there's no risk. Right? They can grow, and they're going to be there waiting for us when we get to heaven. And so I want you to think about, where your heart is. Wherever your heart is focused is the center of your being. Right? Whatever your heart is focused on is what your whole body is going to be, your whole being is going to be in. Are you focused on the here and now, the today, your worldly treasures? Well, that's what you're going to be, all for. Right? That's what you're going to be working towards. Or is your focus on those spiritual gifts, those spiritual blessings, on God, on furthering His kingdom? Because that's where your heart is focused. That's where your body, that's what you're going to be desiring. And so, a couple of things I want you to think about this week when it comes to focusing your heart. Number one, pray that God would help you desire His riches. You have to desire His riches, first and foremost, in order to go after them, right? In order to want them. You have to desire them. And so, do you desire them? Or maybe do you desire the worldly treasures more? Where is your focus there? So think about that. Pray to God that you could desire, if you don't already desire those spiritual treasures, pray to God that He will help you desire those. Number two, search for God's God's riches in His Word. Right? Look through the Bible. Look at what those spiritual riches are. Whether it's giving to the needy, giving money to the needy, time, forgiving those who have done you wrong. Looking at what are those riches and searching out those in the Word. And then finally, which I think is probably the most difficult one, and that's the one I've probably struggled with the most, is prioritizing God's riches over the riches of the world. Prioritizing those heavenly riches, those blessings, those treasures in heaven, compared to those here on earth. Right? Focusing on the long term versus here today. So number two, focus for our eye. All right, what should our eye be focused on? So continuing here, verses 22 through 23. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. So if the light within you is darkness, how deep is that darkness? So I really like what Jesus is doing here, his analogy that he put here with the eye and the lamp. You think about the purpose of a lamp or a flashlight. If you've ever woken up in a storm and you've lost power in your house at night, a lamp, a light's nice to have to help kind of see your way through your house. Maybe you're in the woods, all right, when it's pitch black. It's nice to have that lamp, that flashlight to kind of guide your way so you don't stumble or run into anything or fall down. And so the eye is the lamp of our body, all right? It guides where we go. It shows us where we should go, okay? So where is your eye guiding you? All right, where is your attention set? Where are you letting your eye guide you? We got a picture here of a chameleon. You know, we all know they change colors, but if you've ever seen their eyes, they kind of go all over the place, right? All different sorts of directions. And so, you know, are we as Christians like a chameleon here where our eyes are just going all over the place? Focused on all these different things around us? Or are we laser focused on what's really important? And that is the spiritual gifts, furthering the kingdom of God. Jesus also talks here about our eye and the health of our eye. You know, is your eye healthy or is it not healthy? Is it bad? You know, you think about vision. You know, vision's very important. The eyes are kind of the windows of the body. You know, you think about if you are able to see clearly, right? A lot of light can get in your body. If you don't see clearly, right? Typically it's a little bit darker, right? Especially if you're blind, right? All you see is darkness. And so Jesus uses that here in talking about, you know, the health of our eyes. You know, you think about when you wake up in the morning, a lot of times you don't see super clear, right? I know this morning when I woke up and I was trying to look at the alarm clock, I had to sit there for a second to focus to see what the time was, right? You know, we've got to take time to get that focus. And so Jesus here talks about if you're seeing clearly. So then if your eye can see clearly, your whole body will benefit from its true sight and be full of light. You know, are our eyes healthy? Are they clear? Are we able to see clearly? If we are, right, and see clearly the light, the truth, we'll be following in the direction that we need to go in. But on the contrary, if our eye is bad and we can't see, the whole body will be full of darkness. Right? We won't know, you know, what we need to do. We won't be able to discern between, you know, right and wrong. It might lead to some confusion. And so ensuring that our eyes are clear and focused. When I read this and started, you know, preparing this lesson, one kind of TV show came in mind and might be coming to mind to your mind. Friday Night Lights. Anyone watch Friday Night Lights? Yeah. So clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. All right, Coach Taylor. I really like how that applies here, that saying. You know, we need to have clear eyes. We need to be focused and clear on what we're supposed to do. Have a full heart. Be passionate about what we're trying to do. And if we're able to do that, we can be the most effective Christians that we can be. So if I could have someone read Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. So maybe a page over into the chapter, verse 33 here in Matthew chapter 6.
But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well.
So if we're able to have a clear eyes, we can seek first the kingdom of God, and his righteousness will be added unto us. So again, it's important to have that clear vision, those clear eyes. Finally, talk about our focus for our living. All right, so we're kind of rounding out this section here in the Sermon on the Mount, looking at verse 24. This is kind of the famous verse in this section here. Right? No one can serve two masters, since either he will hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And so here, Jesus is talking about you can't serve two people. Right? Going back to the activity that we did earlier, right? It's tough to have to focus on two different things and be successful at both. All right? It's much easier to focus on one thing and be successful with that. And that's kind of the point Jesus is making here. You can't serve two masters. You have to pick one and serve that master. All right? So think of some examples here of serving, you know, two masters, right? You know, it's very tough to be a diehard fan of two different teams, right? You know, imagine being a diehard fan of the Florida Gators and the Tennessee Volunteers. It's probably not going to end up very well, right? You got to pick one, right? You can only really be a diehard fan of one team, right? Imagine dating, right? I don't want to. Hopefully, no one falls in this category. But dating multiple people, all right? Not the best thing to do. But how difficult would that be to date multiple people? Not the easiest thing to do in the world, at all, right? I can tell you from personal experience, being married to one woman, it's, me trying to be the best husband I can be is hard enough with one wife. I can't imagine multiple wives. That would just be crazy, right? So again, being devoted to one person, Jesus is making that point here. Make sure you have one master. And so we're going to talk about a couple things. All right, number one, people around us, and then what Jesus is talking about here of money. I think we could apply what he's talking about to people around us. If someone could read Galatians chapter 1, verse 10. Galatians 1, verse 10.
Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ.
So do we please people or do we please God? Well, if we please people, we're not pleasing God. And, some of you may fall into this category of being a people pleaser, right? Trying to ensure that you're pleasing those around you. And a lot of times we can get in trouble with this. It can be really a powerful tool, a powerful personality trait in the kingdom of God, but it can also cause issues. When you think about, are you focused on making sure that everyone around you is happy and likes you? Are you focused on ensuring that, people like you, that everyone's around you is happy? Or, are you also concerned for their souls? It's easy to be concerned about making sure people like you, making sure people are happy, but are we also taking it a step further in looking after their souls? Again, are we focused on the here and now, or are we focused on eternity in heaven? Are we thinking about the relationships, friendships in that moment or long term? Are we focused on just building that relationship, keeping our friends happy in the here and now, in the present? Or are we focused on ensuring that they're going to get to heaven with us? Right? That they're going to be able to enjoy eternity with us? This one I think is pretty pertinent, especially today, and kind of what Mark's been talking about over the past few weeks on Sunday. Are we serving the church to look better by others, or because we think it is what it is expected from us, or truly to serve God? Mark's kind of given us a challenge this year to kind of build up the church around us, to be better Christians within the church, and to ultimately make University City a better church. And so, are we doing things so that others can see us? Are we doing things to, maybe to have our friends around us be happy with us? Or maybe the elders be happy with us? Or Mark be happy with us? Or are we doing it to truly serve God? Again, we could do all the right things, but if our focus is wrong, it doesn't matter what we do. Our focus has to be right. Our focus has to be on those heavenly things, on serving God and doing what God wants us to do, not on the day-to-day, not on the here and now, not on the temporary. And so, how do, being a people pleaser, how do people kind of fall in that? Sometimes it can cause us to serve people versus God, all right? Or maybe try to do both. And again, Jesus warns us against that. Pick one. Don't serve two masters. And to finally kind of wrap up this, you cannot serve God and money. And that last term, money, some of your versions may have a different word. You might have mammon there. And so this is just a term that encompasses more than just money. It's more than just money. It's wealth, it's riches, it's gains, it's prosperity. I think of this as, everything that we have around us. Maybe it's success. Maybe it's the possessions that we have, our home, our cars. Anything that provides value, and you think of in a secular term, wealth, I think can be accompanied here, not just money in our bank account. And so we'll look at a couple verses here. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, and by craving it, some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Again, the love of money is the root of all evil. We see a lot of sin can come about from money. Right? Whether it's greed, whether it's jealousy, you go on, the sins that can come from that love of money. And that's what 1 Timothy here, this verse is saying, that love of money is the root of all evil. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10, I like this verse a lot. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves abundance with its income. This too is vanity. That first part there, he who loves money will not be satisfied. You think about money and earning money. It's one of those things where you can never earn enough money. All right? I see this a lot of times, in personal finance. I've been to a lot of conferences, seminars. We talk about, individuals who've been interviewed about their income, and if, they're said, well, if I just had this one bonus, or if I had this one raise, or if I just had, X amount more of dollars, I'd be okay. It doesn't matter how much you earn. You're always going to want more and more and more. Money is that unquenchable thirst. Right? You're always going to want more. You're always going to want to keep up with the Joneses, right? You're always going to want that new car, that new job, that new home, that bigger house. And that's what Ecclesiastes is talking about here. You're never going to quench that thirst. You're never going to be satisfied if your goal and focus is on money. And so, with that being said, money isn't necessarily evil. Okay? Money isn't evil. It can be used to do a lot of powerful things. And there's a lot of Christians who are very wealthy and do a lot of good with that money. So money itself is not evil. It's the love of money that is evil. It's that drive for money. Again, going back to what we're talking about tonight, what is your focus? What is your focus? Is it on to earn as much as you can? Is it on to acquire as much wealth, to have the biggest house, the biggest car, the nicest car? Is that what your focus is? If that's where your focus is, you've got it wrong. You're never going to be satisfied. You're never going to quench that thirst. It's going to cause more grief in your life than it's going to cause happiness. But if we focus on those spiritual blessings, if we focus on God and furthering the spiritual kingdom and think more eternally in what lies for us in heaven, we're going to be much better off. We're going to be satisfied. You think, we read in the Bible about that peace that surpasses all understanding. That's what we get with God. That's what we get if we focus on God. And so focus on the riches found in God. Focus on that eternal home that we have waiting for us. Who is your master? Who is your master tonight? And is your master worldly possessions? Is it money? Is it trying to get that job and that career? There's nothing wrong with that. But is that your entire focus? If it is, maybe you should think about how that your focus can change. So this week, some things to think about and to take away from this lesson. Identify 3 things that you focus on the most. What are some 3 things that you focus on the most? Out of those 3 things, what's the one thing that you focus on the most? What is that one thing that you focus on the most? Is it temporary? Is it worldly things? Or is it spiritual? Is it heavenly things? If it's worldly things, maybe you should think about that. Pray about that this week, that God can help you treasure his riches. Maybe change your focus. It's hard a lot of times to kind of fall into that trap of looking at the here and now. In personal finance, it's, trying to talk to individuals to save for retirement. In economics, we call this the overvaluing the present compared to the future. A lot of individuals will want to spend today, spend all their income, and not worry about the future. Well, that's backwards. All right? It's okay to spend now, but you should always be looking to the future, saving for retirement, saving for a rainy day. Same thing spiritually. Are we focused on here and now? Or are we focused on the future? We need to be focused on those eternal riches, laying up treasures in heaven. That's what Jesus here is telling us to do. Where is your focus?